if there is one message that I would leave, to my own children, it would be you got to get out of your comfort zone and continue to learn and evolve and press forward, even when it feels really uncomfortable.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Whenever you may be listening, this is Latitude, the 43 North podcast. I'm your host, Nate Benson, Digital Media Manager here at 43 North, and this is episode 44, The Exit Interview. This week on the podcast, we have soon-to-be former Executive Director of 43 North, John Gavigan, on the podcast. He was on our very first episode of this podcast, and you can head into our archive on podbean.com/43north and check that out. And I will say, it's a fun conversation between John and I this week. I did the whole exit interview shtick because I try to be incredibly clever when I'm on this podcast. Anyway, I don't want to waste any more time rambling, setting up this episode. So let's jump right into it. My conversation with John Gavigan. All right, sir, can you, for the record, just state your name for this exit interview, please?
John Gavigan.
And what was your role here at 43 North, John?
Executive Director of 43 North for the last 3 years.
All right. I'm representing corporate in this. This is not a friendly chat. This is a legitimate exit interview. I have to say, in terms of recommendations for a future job, you being 10 minutes late to the exit interview is not.
Is this all part of the exit interview?
Not voting good. Oh, this is
process?
I haven't even gotten started, John.
I needed a quick run and workout to settle my brain enough for what I anticipated to be very poignant, very productive, and really smart and intelligent questions. Because I know you well.
First off, nobody comes to this podcast looking for smart, intelligent conversation. That's for sure.
Really?
That's for sure. I got to say, the workout's also not showing, if I'm being entirely honest. No, I'm sorry. That's the extent of me hazing you. John, this is your second to last day. We're going to publish this on your last day. Nice shot. How you feeling?
Oh man, how do I feel? Good first question. I would say that I feel a little emotional, reflective. I am excited. There's a degree of nerves. I have a degree of nerves. Mm-hmm. It's the unknown is in front of me. I don't know. I can't necessarily plan for what's coming next. Mm-hmm. All the things that could be coming next. So for me, that's always been a mixture of excitement and a degree of nerves, which keeps me motivated.
Before we talk about the current, let's talk about the past. Walk me through your decision to join 43 North. What was your life like at that point? What was 43 North like at that point, and why was it, in your mind, a good fit?
The transition started in 2011 when my former partner Mark and I sold our business to a division of Xerox. That happened late in 2011. I had worked for the new company, that new division that was created for a period of time, and was having success there and enjoyed, working with my team, and it looked like I had some trajectory moving ahead in that organization. The challenge is that I was constantly being drawn out of town, and my children were getting older. It was also at an inflection point personally in my personal life with my wife, and I knew that it was time for me to focus my career closer to home. So at the time, a couple years into the new gig, after we had sold the company, I had started looking for new companies to buy. And I didn't really know how to buy a company. So I had to learn. And the only way I knew how to learn was put together a plan and execute it, which I ultimately ended up doing. And over a period of I would say a year and a half, I had contacted a lot of my network and found ultimately through a lot of due diligence and a lot of researching and constant phone calls to and from Rochester, to and from Syracuse, found a business that I was going to buy. I had gone through that process of trying to buy that business for a period of about a year, and we were getting close to consummating that deal, and I read in the newspaper that my predecessor, Andrew Pulkerbeck, was leaving. It was on the front page of the business section that he was moving back to Minnesota. And I said to myself, wow, would that be a cool job to do? I love the community. I love entrepreneurism. I'm excited by inventors and innovators and risk takers. And at the same time, a friend of mine, Bridget Doherty, had recommended me for the job to the person doing the search at the time, who was Sharon Rendasio. That information had gotten back to me. This is all on the same day, by the way. So the next morning, I called Sharon's office, and I said, I think I may be the guy for the 43 North job. She said, well, and Jenna Regan was on the phone. Jenna's like, oh, come on in. We'll test
chat
you
about
out,
it.
and we'll chat, the whole thing. So
and it was like a half marathon run, 100 push-ups. Like, what was that test like? Yeah.
And I came in my favorite brown suit and my favorite purple socks, my good luck attire. And after 15 minutes, Jenna was like, I think you're the guy for the job. I better go get Sharon. And then Sharon came in. I had never met her before, and 15 minutes later, she's like, I think you might be the guy for the job. And I'm like, you know what? I think I may be the guy for the job. And then a week later, I met with Christina Orsi and Howard Zemsky. And 2 hours later, they said, I think you're the guy for the job. And I said, you know what? I think I may be the guy for the job. And at that point, I really started penciling out what my vision would be for 43 North over the next 3 years. I anticipated that it would be a 3-year endeavor.
How do you go from...
And then my final interview, by the way, was with Jordy, and he was in the Denver airport, and it was a hysterical interview. I think that one lasted about 7 minutes, and then he was like, dude, you're the guy for the job. I'll have you an offer letter. And
Jordy's quick. Anything over 10 minutes for Jordy
once he knows,
a waste of time for him.
Yeah, so it was, great.
Now, prior to you seeing the front page article about Andrew leaving, you said you were in negotiations to buy a company, and we talk on this podcast a lot about things like that, the business deals and whatnot. You ultimately didn't buy that company, correct?
Didn't.
And that's a tough decision. You've got the opportunity to buy a company. You spend a year of your life working to buy the company, and then at the 11th hour and 59th minute, a different opportunity comes up. Walk us through the decision-making process.
I think mostly the decisions, and it seems I seem to be getting stronger in this positioning. It's the regrets on decisions you don't make, the chances that you don't take. I had said when I first announced that I would be leaving 43 North that it was, that I was on a constant path of reinvention, and I think that was actually the wrong way of categorizing it. I'd reframe my statement to say evolution. We have one life, and I believe that you should try to extract as much as you can out of that life, and that is taking risks and trying new things and learning and exploring, while at the same time ensuring that you're covering the things that you need to do. In this case, for me, I need to deliver for my family. I need to protect them and provide for them. So that's always at the forefront of my decision making. And then to whatever degree I can, I'm pressing myself to learn and evolve as much as I possibly can with what little time I and everyone else really has. And that value continues to strengthen with me. So when I just knew that I would have regretted had I not made that call that day to the recruiter to say, I may be the guy for the job. Do you mind if I come in and just explore it with you a little bit more? And now look, 3 years later, and I have new friends and new contacts and rich experiences that I would have never had. a mindset and a perspective that has evolved substantially over 3 years. I've seen things in the world that, I coined a phrase, what used to be on the horizon, what used to be science fiction is now on the horizon. I would have never known that had I not taken this position. So I've seen a lot that I otherwise would not have seen, and it's only further strengthened my resolve in evolving as a person, as a business person, as a father, as a friend, and I'm going to continue to press the envelope as much as I can.
There's a lot of unknowns when anybody takes any job or starts a company or does something that like you said is that you might regret if you don't do. When you came on board at 43 North, was the mindset this is a 10-year play, this is a 3-year play? What was your kind of expectation for something of this nature in an organization like this coming in? And I don't mean that in like a hostile question type of way, but I'm just kind of curious, like what's the mentality of coming into a new organization that in its infancy you're not necessarily sure how things are going to play out.
Let me address the second part first. You're the least hostile person I know. You're not entirely funny, but
no.
You are completely not.
I'm the
hostile.
Andy Kaufman of my generation. I'm not going to be appreciated until I fake my own death.
That is self-proclaimed, okay? In order for that to be true, somebody else has to coin that
Dan
for
says
you.
it all the time.
Did he really? Does he
yeah,
really?
I paid him to say it, but he said it.
That is great. I coined myself as a thought leader, and he's like, dude, you can't just add that to your resume. Somebody else has to call you thought leader. All right, Andy Kaufman. Well, there you go. You've been bestowed that. I dig it. At first, I thought that it would be around a 3-year gig in my mindset. So when I first came on board, I had positioned my brain to leave whatever agendas that I had created in my professional life. Everybody has their agendas and purpose, whatever, but my sole purpose would be doing things for the sole benefit of the community. That was a really important core value that I came into the job with. That it was not about me. It was about the community, what we could do to impact the opportunities in the community. That's really important. In my mind, I also felt like it would be around a 3-year run rate. I have to tell you, the decision to move forward from here was a really difficult one. And the reason why is, as a team, our team put 43 North on a new platform from where we came from, and we did that together. And I knew that the next iteration of 43 North would be just as impactful, could be just as impactful as what we did in the last 3 years together. So moving forward, it has every opportunity of being just as exciting, just as impactful, if not even more impactful, moving ahead. So the decision was, well, do I take the new 43 North and lead it, or do I leave, this time in my life where it is and explore some new opportunities? And, obviously I chose the latter. But I have to tell you, it was like a 51-49 decision.
They always end up that way, right?
Yeah, well, that's it. But you got to make a choice, and so I did. So yeah, I felt initially it was probably a 3-year gig for me. I have other aspirations that, that being the executive director here, probably wouldn't necessarily fulfill, and I need to get back to doing some other things that I've wanted to, which is getting back to some of my roots.
What are those aspirations?
It's more entrepreneurial. Again, I talk about needs with my family, and part of the needs are creating enough, sustainability after I'm not here. I have a son with autism, and, that's constantly at the forefront of my mind, is ensuring that, no matter what happens, with him, we continue to do great work with him, and he evolves. But, it definitely centers my mind quite a bit, and ensuring that he's got the needs after Nicole and I aren't here anymore. So, I want to make sure that we have enough, wealth created to, ensure that, my family is okay after we're gone, and that, in part shapes some of my decision making. There's also what I've learned. I've been a generalist over the last 3 years in a lot of industries, a lot of sectors. I've seen so much. It's almost like I can't believe that this is the world, right? It's literally mind-blowing. But to go a little deeper in a couple of sectors that I really, felt a little bit more connected to, or industries that I felt a little bit more connected to, I felt would be important. So I continue to kind of narrow that down a little bit. And, we'll see where that takes me as we move ahead.
So you're running for office for anything?
No, I don't. Not anytime soon. Although I have to tell you that has been something that has always interested me because I think I bring a unique, personally, I know I bring a unique perspective to keeping your agendas at bay and doing what's right to advance the interests and opportunities for other people, most of which we'll never meet. It's been a big part of our culture as a team here. And, and I share that with my team and my board. Now I do. And so, yeah, I think I would probably be a remarkable candidate for public office. However, that isn't really in my purview anytime soon. I would say if I would ever do that would probably be, later on in my life after I've accomplished a few things here in the next, decade and a half.
Decade and a half? John, you're not spring chicken anymore, man.
You
gotta move this stuff along.
What's funny? I've just started saying I'm mid 40s because I'm 46, which is
nice,
really on the so mid 40s just seems to sound a little bit better. I'm kind of digging that phrase. But thank you for sharing that.
No,
again, you're really not Andy Kaufman.
No, I know. That's fine.
I'm taking
reevaluating it
back.
No, that's fine.
We have to figure out a way to talk to Dan to see how he can retract the whole Andy Kaufman thing.
Yeah, that's fine.
Were you in Taxi?
I was.
You've really beefed up since then.
Oh yeah. I enjoy the wings here in Buffalo. Ulrich's Wings next door. At least once a week, I have that. My life is good. Conversation with those wings.
My recollection of Andy Kaufman, he was like 110 pounds.
Yeah, soaking wet.
Yeah.
We're not here talking about me. We're talking about you. I hate questions like this, but I'll ask you. Looking back, what's your proudest moment? As captain of the ship that is 43 North.
I've got a lot of them. I think this year's The Pitch.
We know hiring me, so that aside, what else is your
hiring Andy Kaufman when everybody else thought he had passed away was really
fantastic move.
Proudest moments, The Pitch this year I think was exceptional. That was really pretty neat to watch our winner break down with such emotion and having the ability to look ahead in her own life was pretty cool. I just received a letter actually over the weekend, believe it or not, from a mother who brought her 10-year-old daughter to the finals and her daughter's friend, and they were so inspired that that's all they've been talking about is entrepreneurism, since then, and they formalized an agreement as CEOs of their own companies, and that's a perspective I think that more and more of our youth in this community will have because of our efforts and others' efforts. So I'm really proud of those moments. But frankly, for me, I think it was building the team is holistically my proudest move. I've often said that the best ideas that we've had over the last 3 years have really come from the team. Mm-hmm. It was just my role to facilitate each individual voice. I think I accomplished that. I accomplished my role. But frankly, a lot of the greatest ideas that we've had to evolve 43 North and to be more impactful as an organization have really come from the team. And I hired this team. And I think I instilled the proper virtues and values up front. And I can look out at our team right now and say that each one of them in their own way embodies those. So I'm really pleased with that. I think this year's finals was among the best we've had. It was one of the best moments.
You were glowing that entire day. Like I was, because I had a camera the whole day and I was watching everybody and shooting video and stuff. And like you had a smile ear to ear that entire day. You really seem to enjoy yourself.
I legitimately enjoyed myself. I will tell you one other thing from a personal perspective, what my proudest, I don't think it really comes down to a moment. The moment really is making that first phone call to the recruiter and taking a chance. Okay? That's probably if I really looked back, it's probably, I'm so proud of myself that I decided to pick up the phone and do it. Most people would have never picked up the phone.
Mm-hmm.
They would have just said, oh, that would be a really cool job.
And then move on to the safe bet of, which isn't necessarily safe, of buying a business, but of the two things, that's the safer thing.
You know, or gone on with their life.
Yeah.
You know, I knew that it was a little bit more public in nature. I guess I didn't really anticipate how much so. You know, but I've always had, you know, challenges like most people do in public speaking. It isn't like a normal thing, you know, for most people. I think I'd read a statistic once that 80% of people are more fearful of public speaking than dying.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm no different. I still get butterflies and nervous and all those things, and yet over the last 3 years, the amount of speeches, the presentations, the meetings, news stories and podcasts and blah, 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 on and on and on and on and on. Yet I forced myself to sit outside my comfort zone and do it anyway. And, you know, if there is one message that I would leave, you know, to my own children, it would be, you got to get out of your comfort zone and continue to learn and evolve and press forward, even when it feels really uncomfortable. And I did that. And how great is that? You know, so it's something now that I get to take for the rest of my life. And, but, you know, I had to put myself in position to do that. And so, yeah, I'm really proud of that.
In any career, in any job, there are the misses, the things that you didn't get to. What are some of the things that you personally didn't get to see fulfilled, or even off the ground, that you would have wanted to?
Wow, that's a interesting question. I think one thing that I'd like to see more and wish that it would have taken root. Maybe it was unfair to expect this in such a short period of time. But to see the more traditional employers take that much more active role in helping the startup ecosystem evolve. You know, some of the more traditional, employers in the Western New York community, because all businesses really contribute to the fabric of everybody's lives here, you know, whether or not it's employment or better employment or, you know, the housing market growing or gathering new restaurants, et cetera. You know, we've had a lot of support from a lot of organizations, but frankly, my feeling is every community right now is doing their part or trying to do their part scaling their own startup communities. That's what I've seen. Every community.
Every major city.
It's not even the major cities anymore. It's now the mid-major cities. It's the smaller communities. It's the rural towns. Mm-hmm. You'd be surprised. Everybody's got their thing in their own communities. I think Buffalo has done a better job than most, scaling as quickly as we've had. But we have a lot of competition out there, and it is incumbent on the entire community getting behind this mountain and pushing forward on entrepreneurism and innovation and our startup community so that we're building the next businesses of our community's future. And that is the only way that I see us evolving as a community and protecting our youth and our family culture here. You know, I've often said I don't want to go visit my kids from overseas. I don't want to be raising my grandchildren from 3,000 miles away. I'd prefer that they had the opportunities here so that we could keep our family structure intact. And the only way to do that is having fulfilling professional opportunities, the big part of your life, right? And this is our opportunity. There are so many things changing in the world that every community has an opportunity to kind of take that lead role or a leadership role in its own evolution. So my hope is that the next wave, that some of the bigger players in town really get behind this movement, really with capital, resources, energy, etc., really get behind this movement so that we can scale quicker.
So what's next for you?
I am deciding between a few alternatives right now. Not really ready to make. I will tell you though, and this is the craziest part. I'm down from 30, and it looks like I'm down to 2.
Oh.
So, I'll know in the next couple of weeks. I anticipate. So it's ultimately going to come down to my gut. A gut decision and what feels right for me and my family. And but I've been really fortunate that some really interesting opportunities have been presented over, the last 4 months. What makes this really unbelievable, it's the first time in my life that I ever actually decided to leave a job before having a job. That's a new experience, by the way.
As a father of 2 kids under 5, that's a terrifying idea to me.
But that when I talk about agenda lists, that's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to make sure that we were leaving 43 North in great hands and that we had enough time to do a proper search and identify the right candidate. I knew that was going to take time. I know that right now it's a different platform that we're moving from than what we inherited, and I knew it was going to take some time. So I wanted to leave our board and our staff enough time to identify the right next candidate, while at the same time it would give me the proper amount of time to uncover some of the opportunities that had been bubbling and surfacing, but there was no defined offers on the table, So, yeah, I'm down to a couple. They're exciting. They're me. They're totally me. And the challenge is there's so many cool things out there to do. It's actually selecting one.
What you want to pull the pin on?
It'll be something to do with entrepreneurism, and I've got a couple other organizations that I'm going to stay affiliated with, for the foreseeable future as well. So I think it's going to really be more of a basket of things that I'm going to be doing in the next, in the next part of my professional life. So, and hopefully those will unlock new opportunities and new ways of learning and exploring and, providing for my family. So it's going to be a fun next path for sure.
Who's taking your place?
Andy Kaufman, Danny DeVito. Who else is in taxi?
You are in the year you and I have worked together. You're terrible at keeping secrets. So the fact that you haven't leaked it yet, I think, is astounding. So kudos to you. I don't know what you're doing, mentally to stay that focused, but
I'd like to revisit exactly what you just said about holding secrets. See, there's another way of saying that, Nate. See, you have so much learning to do.
So much.
It's unbelievable.
Young Padawan.
It is unbelievable. I feel like we need to go out by like a fence with a paintbrush. Do like wax on, wax off, or whatever that is.
Well, hey, we would have had that time, but you're abandoning me. So
I know. I feel bad about that, my brother. No,
that's it. Yeah,
revisiting the you haven't been able to keep a secret. It is called transparency.
Oh,
yes.
Transparency. Okay,
it's transparency. We have a transparency stewardship page on our website. Okay.
Yes, we do.
You recall that?
I have fond memories of that page.
How's the experience been for you there, Mr. Benson?
It's been fun. It's been coming from where my background, coming to do the content here, telling the stories of the startup scene has been very fulfilling. Working with the staff here has been great. Looking forward to 2018 and whatever that may hold.
Well, you're becoming one of the voices of the startup community here. You've done a remarkable job. It's amazing to me that when we decided to insource a lot of the work that we had historically sent out to service providers from around North America, that we had, incredible talent here that we could tap into. And as a result, we were able to pare down the costs, right? The operational expenses to reinvest in other facets of the organization related to mentorship and advising and the success of our winners. And as a result, we actually got more out of our marketing endeavors and and you being a voice of this, not necessarily 43 North, but of the startup community is a big part of it. So, you've done a terrific job. It was again a remarkably smart hire. See, you say proudest moments.
Yet another.
Yeah. I would not have. And by the way, to be on the record over this, I would have not hired Andy Kaufman.
No, I know.
Because I thought the guy was squirrely. Don't you remember that wrestler smacked him?
Jerry the
Letterman?
King Lawler and David Letterman, 1981.
You recall this?
You
weren't even born.
I know I wasn't even born, but I'm a huge wrestling nerd, so I know all that useless. About 66% of my brain is filled with pro wrestling knowledge, and the rest is the other nonsense going on day to day. It's obscene how much knowledge is up there of pro wrestling.
You should probably add another podcast in your off time.
I missed the boat on that because there's about 100 different pro wrestling podcasts out there, so I'd just be another overweight guy talking about pro wrestling.
What else do you got for me?
I've never seen the office this clean. I mean, you are ready to hightail it out of here, brother.
I left my note for the new.
That's very White House. In the desk drawer of the desk in the Oval Office.
I left a box of Cheerios. What else do I have? The monitor.
Yeah.
This has been the most fulfilling experience I've had professionally, for sure. It's been unbelievable to have worked with all of you. It's extremely bittersweet. It is emotional. I'm emotional about it. I'm excited, but it is it's something that I sincerely look forward. I don't want it to happen too quickly, but I am excited about the day where me and the colleagues that I worked with are able to regroup years from now, 10, 20, 30 years from now, and be able to look back and say we had a hand in completely reshaping a community that we all love and care about, and that we had something to do with that. We played a very meaningful role in that. And that's going to be a pretty powerful, that's going to be a powerful moment. And I'm hopeful that our own children will be the beneficiaries of the work that we're doing today.
And I think there's no better opportunity to end the show than with that. So, John, looking forward to having you back on in about a year to talk about your next endeavor. I'm sure it's going to be in this wheelhouse. And until then, we'll see you down the road.
Sounds good, my brother.
And I want to thank John Gavigan for joining me on the podcast today. We've always had a lot of fun busting each other's chops. John's been a great mentor to me this last year I've been here at 43 North. I interviewed him several times when I was in news, and he was always a great interview. I love talking to him. And anyone in the startup community who gets a chance to just have a heart-to-heart conversation with John will walk away, I think, a better person. He's got incredible insight on life. He'll give you great life advice, sometimes unsolicited. You don't necessarily know when you need a pickup in life, and John's one of those people, no matter what mood he's in, he always finds a way to pick you up. And I'm going to miss working with John every day. He's been a great steward to 43 North and the startup community here in Western New York, and I know he'll be a success wherever he ends up. And I'm looking forward to his successor. And when we're going to announce that, you'll be the first to know. I want to thank everybody for listening to the podcast. Hey, head on over to iTunes, leave a 5-star review and a quick comment on how much you like this podcast. The more people who review this podcast, the more people this podcast gets in front of, and the more job security I have. I want to thank everyone again for listening. I'm Nate Benson for 43 North. We'll see you at the next one.